I was never meant to uncover this, and you? You were never supposed to hear it. Something inside you knows. You've felt it for years. In school, while everyone else was raising their hands, shouting answers and blending into the noise, you were different. You were not slow. You were not disengaged. You were thinking. But the system was not built for thinkers. It was built for talkers. For the loud, for the fast, for the ones who followed, not the ones who questioned. And you've probably wondered, why? Why did school force group projects where the loudest voice always won? Why did it reward quick answers instead of deep insights? Why did it punish quiet focus and label it as not participating enough? Here's the truth they don't want you to know. The system was not accidentally against you. It was designed that way. Because introverts, real introverts, are dangerous. They think deeper. They process faster. They see connections that others miss. But a society where introverts fully unlock their minds, that's a threat to those in power. That's why something was taken from you. A brain hack so powerful it was once used to train the greatest minds in history, Da Vinci, Tesla, Einstein, but it was erased from schools. Because if introverts mastered this technique, they would not just compete, they would dominate. Why you were never taught this school was not about making you intelligent. It was about making you manageable. During the Industrial Revolution, they did not need visionaries. They needed workers, people who followed orders, performed repetitive tasks, and never questioned why. So they built a system that trained obedience, not independence, rewarded memorization, not innovation, forced extrovert-driven learning and called it normal. And the worst part? They made you believe that being quiet meant being weak. They made you think your preference for solitude was a flaw, that your deep thinking was overanalyzing, that your desire to process information fully was too slow. When in reality, introverts were not slow. They were playing a different game, one that the system was terrified of. Because deep thinkers don't accept limits. They don't need permission. They don't follow rules. They create them. And the fastest way to stop someone from becoming powerful? Make them doubt themselves. That's why they took this method away from you. But today, that changes. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to expose the exact thinking technique they erased from schools. The one designed for minds like yours. And once you learn it, they'll never be able to control how you think again. You were never slow. You were never behind. You were designed for something else. But the world you grew up in, it was not built for people like you. Think about it. Schools were never about intelligence. They were about control. You were not trained to think. You were trained to repeat. You were not taught how to learn. You were taught how to obey. And if you did not fit into their perfect little mold, they made you feel like something was wrong with you. But let me tell you something they won't. If you ever felt out of place in school, if you ever felt like the system was against you, it's because it was. And the reason why starts with a massive historical lie. Back in the Industrial Revolution, the world did not need thinkers. It needed workers, people who could follow instructions, do repetitive tasks, and never ask questions. So they built a school system to mass produce exactly that. And that's where the attack on introverts began. If you've ever sat in a classroom feeling like the whole system was stacked against you, it's because it was designed for the loud, not the deep. Look at how schools operate. Fast answers get rewarded. Deep thinking gets ignored. Group projects dominate. Solo mastery is sidelined. Speaking up equals smart. Thinking quietly equals not participating. You were not given time to process. You were not encouraged to go deeper. You were constantly rushed, pushed, and forced to keep up with extroverts. And if you did not, you were labeled too quiet, not engaged enough, needs to participate more. But let's flip the script for a second. What if it was not you who was broken? What if it was the system that was broken? Because real intelligence does not happen in group discussions. It does not happen when you're forced to blurt out quick answers. It does not happen when you're stuck following someone else's timeline. It happens in silence, when your brain is given space to think, to analyze, to see connections others miss. And that's exactly why schools made sure you never got that space. Here's where it gets even worse. Once upon a time, schools actually trained students to think at genius levels. There was a technique used by some of the greatest minds in history that made problem-solving effortless, memory unshakable, and creativity almost superhuman. It was called mental webbing, and it was perfect for introverts. Because while extroverts were thinking in straight lines, introverts naturally thought in webs. They saw connections that others could not see. They processed deeper, faster, and more effectively. They built knowledge instead of memorizing facts. And for a while, this method was taught in elite schools. Then suddenly, it disappeared. If introverts had been trained in mental webbing, everything would be different today. They would not be silent. They wouldn't be underestimated. They would not be easy to control. Because when you train an introvert to think this way, something dangerous happens. They stop needing permission. They start solving problems before others even recognize them. They begin seeing patterns in business, in strategy, in human behavior that no one else can see. And the people in power? They could not allow that. Because imagine a world where introverts had the edge, where they were not being held back, where they were not being told how to think, where they were outthinking the very system designed to suppress them. That's why mental webbing was erased from schools. Because a world where introverts use their full mental potential, that's a world where the system does not stand a chance. Here's the part they never taught you. You were already wired to think this way. While extroverts jump from one topic to the next, your mind naturally goes deeper. While they focus on what's in front of them, your brain is already seeing the bigger picture. While they chase quick answers, you're building complex solutions. That's what mental webbing is all about. But because no one ever told you that this was your strength, you were left feeling like something was wrong with the way you think. Why can't I think as fast as them? Why do I need time to process? Why do I always see things from a different angle? Let me tell you why. Because you were never meant to think like them. You were meant to think beyond them. You were not meant to compete in their game. You were meant to see the game before they even knew they were playing. If you start using the mental webbing method, something strange will happen. Your thoughts will become faster. Your memory will become unbreakable. You'll start seeing connections between ideas that others can't even comprehend. And suddenly, the world will look different. You'll stop feeling slow because you'll realize you were never slow. You were deep. You'll stop feeling lost because your brain will start making sense of everything. You'll stop feeling overlooked because once you start thinking this way, people will have no choice but to notice. This is the power they did not want you to have. This is the technique they made sure was erased from your education. And now, you're about to take it back. At this point, you have a choice. You can walk away, keep thinking the way you were trained to think, small, predictable, controlled. Or you can finally take control. Because mental webbing is the key to unlocking the mind that was stolen from you. And once you start thinking like this, there's no going back. Now the only question is, are you ready to break free? Let's cut straight to the truth. Mental webbing was never supposed to disappear. It was not an accident. It was not a mistake. It was removed on purpose. Because once you master this technique, you stop playing by their rules. Most people are trained to think in straight lines. A problem is presented, a solution is given, move on. But that's not how powerful minds operate. Genius thinking does not follow straight paths. It moves in webs. It does not just solve problems, it restructures them. It does not just memorize facts, it connects them. It does not just follow logic, it builds new ways of thinking. And that's exactly what mental webbing does to your brain. This is what Da Vinci, Tesla, and Einstein did naturally, before the system erased it from mainstream education. But today, you're about to learn it. Imagine your brain as a network, not a list. Most people think linearly. They learn something. They store it in isolation. They struggle to recall it later. But mental webbing forces your mind to link information across multiple areas. Instead of thinking, how do I solve this problem? You start thinking, What else connects to this? Where have I seen this before? How can I use knowledge from a completely different area to solve this? Your brain stops seeing separate pieces of knowledge and starts seeing patterns. And once you start thinking in patterns, you'll recall information effortlessly. You'll predict problems before they even appear. You'll make connections so fast that people will think you have a sixth sense. This is the hidden key to advanced intelligence. And the best part? It's not something you have to be born with. It's a skill you can train. Mental webbing works by forcing your brain to link ideas that seem unrelated. This does three powerful things. Number one, it makes forgetting impossible. Your brain doesn't remember isolated facts. It remembers connections. Every time you link an idea to something else, it gets locked into your memory. The more connections, the stronger the memory. Instead of memorizing a business concept, you link it to military strategy and human psychology. Suddenly, your recall is instant. Number two, it speeds up problem solving. Most people only see one solution. Mental webbing forces you to see 5, 10, or more solutions at once. This is why strategic thinkers outmaneuver their competition. They don't just find the right answer, they find all the answers. A simple negotiation tactic can be connected to chess, war deception, and ancient persuasion methods, giving you 3 different ways to win. Number 3, it unlocks hidden creativity. You start thinking in dimensions instead of limits. You'll generate ideas faster than most people can process them. You'll see opportunities that others overlook. Instead of thinking, how do I sell this product? You think, how did ancient kings persuade their people? How do con artists manipulate emotions? How does psychology influence buying behavior? The result? A completely new way of approaching problems. Now, let's get tactical. Here's exactly how to start training your brain in mental webbing. Step 1. Start cross-field learning. Stop studying one subject at a time. Instead, pick 3 unrelated areas of knowledge and study them simultaneously. If you're in business, study psychology, warfare, and negotiation. If you're in technology, study human behavior, art, and history. Why? Because your brain will be forced to link concepts across disciplines. Step 2. Force new connections. Every time you learn something new, ask, where else have I seen this before? How does this relate to something completely different? How can I use this in an unexpected way? If you learn a marketing tactic, instead of just memorizing it, connect it to military deception and psychological persuasion. Step 3. Use the 3-link rule. Never let a new piece of knowledge sit alone in your brain. Link every new idea to at least 3 unrelated areas. If you learn about memory techniques, link it to how musicians remember complex notes, how spies store secret codes, how chess masters recall thousands of positions. The more you force these connections, the faster your brain adapts to this thinking style. So now you know how it works. But the real question is, why was it taken away from you? Because people who think like this are not predictable. They don't follow trends, they create them. They don't compete, they dominate. A world where introverts master mental webbing is a world where industries collapse because new ideas replace them faster than they can adapt. Governments struggle to control the population because people think ahead of their tactics. The education system is exposed as a joke because people are learning faster outside of it. And that's why you were never taught this. Because once you master it, you can't be stopped. Now you have 2 choices. Number 1, forget everything you just learned. Go back to thinking the way the system trained you. Linear, slow, predictable. Number 2, start applying mental webbing right now. Take back the thinking method that was stolen from you. Unlock the hidden power in your brain that the world never wanted you to find. Because once you start using this, you won't just think differently. You'll never think the same way again. Step 1. Input expansion. Flood your brain with diverse knowledge. Your brain has been running on outdated software, programmed by the system to keep you thinking small. Schools trained you to focus on one subject at a time, limiting your thinking to whatever was in a textbook. But the greatest minds Da Vinci, Tesla, Jobs did the opposite. They did not specialize. They expanded. Da Vinci was not just an artist. He studied anatomy, engineering, and philosophy. Tesla did not just work on electricity. He explored frequency, magnetism, and human consciousness. Steve Jobs was not just a tech genius. He understood design, psychology, and storytelling. The first step to unlocking mental webbing is breaking artificial boundaries. You need to consume information from multiple unrelated fields at the same time. If you study business, start reading about war strategy and psychology. If you're in technology, dive into history and philosophy. Your brain needs diverse inputs to create unexpected connections. At first, it will feel chaotic. Your brain has been trained to think in straight lines. But soon, something shifts. You start seeing patterns where others see random facts. Connections appear where none existed before. Suddenly, new ideas merge, and breakthroughs become obvious. This is why the elite push multidisciplinary education for their children while the rest of the world is told to stay in their lane. The most powerful thinkers don't just master one subject. They blend knowledge to create something new. Step 2. Association mapping. Link ideas. Like a genius, your brain does not store information as isolated facts. It remembers connections. But in school, you were forced to memorize facts without linking them to anything meaningful. That's why most people forget 90% of what they learn. There's no network to support it. Mental webbing thrives on association mapping, a method that locks knowledge into your brain by forcing connections. Every time you learn something new, attach it to 3 things you already know. If you're learning a psychology concept, ask, how does this relate to war strategy? How does this apply to business? How would an artist use this? This simple habit rewires your brain. Instead of storing facts separately, you embed them into an interconnected web. The stronger the connections, the faster your brain retrieves knowledge, and the more powerful your thinking becomes. This is why world-class thinkers seem to recall information instantly. They are not just memorizing. They've built a network of linked ideas. Once you start doing this, your brain will feel like it's running on a completely new level. Step 3. Outcome multiplication. Think in multi-dimensions. Most people think in straight lines. Find one answer, move on. Schools conditioned you to believe that there's always a single correct solution. But the most powerful minds never stop at one answer. They generate multiple solutions and analyze the best one. This is called outcome multiplication, and it's the final step in mental webbing. The next time you face a problem, don't stop at the first solution that comes to mind. Force yourself to create at least 5 different approaches, even if some seem ridiculous. Ask yourself, what would the opposite strategy look like? What if I combined 2 ideas? How would a scientist, a criminal, and an artist solve this problem? This trains your brain to see beyond what's obvious, pushing it into new territory where creativity and strategic intelligence thrive. While others react to problems, you'll already be executing multiple winning moves. This is how high-level thinkers always seem ahead of the game. While the average person is still deciding, they've already planned 5 steps ahead. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. Years of linear thinking will pull you back into old habits, looking for the quickest solution instead of deeper possibilities. But once your brain fully adapts, everything changes. You'll start thinking faster, deeper, and more creatively. Ideas will flow effortlessly. Your memory will sharpen. Conversations will feel smoother. You'll begin predicting problems before they happen, not by luck, but because your mind will now recognize patterns and connections others can't see. This is how the world's most powerful minds operated. They did not just learn. They connected ideas, built mental networks, and created multi-dimensional solutions. And now, so will you. You've been given a choice. Continue thinking the way they trained you, or reprogram your mind for dominance. Mental webbing is not something you just understand. It's something you train into your brain until it becomes second nature. And the best way to do that? A challenge. For the next 7 days, you're going to break the mental chains that school placed on you. Each day, you will push your mind into new territory, forcing it to make connections, see patterns, and operate at a level most people will never reach. Day 1 and 2. Expand your inputs. Break the thought barriers. Your brain has been trained to stay inside a box, to only study one thing at a time. That changes now. Over the next 2 days, consume information from a completely different field than your main interest. If you study business, read about ancient warfare. If you're in tech, study psychology. If you're into fitness, dive into philosophy. This will feel uncomfortable, and that's the point. Once you finish, write down 5 unexpected connections between what you learned and your main field. This forces your brain to start seeing hidden links between ideas, something most people will never do. Day 3 and 4. Master association mapping. Make forgetting impossible. Now it's time to lock knowledge into your brain forever. Every time you learn something new, link it to 3 unrelated fields. Let's say you learn a new persuasion technique. Connect it to, number 1, chess strategy. How does this relate to anticipating an opponent's move? Number 2, military deception. How did ancient generals use persuasion in war? Number 3, psychological biases. Why do people fall for certain tactics? By the end of these 2 days, your brain will start making these connections on its own. You'll begin remembering details faster, thinking sharper, and pulling ideas from different disciplines effortlessly. Day 5 and 6. Train multidimensional thinking. Break free from one answer. Thinking. The system trained you to find one right answer and stop thinking. The elite? They train their minds to generate 5, 10, even 20 solutions to every problem. For the next 2 days, whenever you face a decision, don't stop at the first answer. Instead, force yourself to create 5 completely different solutions, even if they seem ridiculous at first. If you get stuck, ask, what would a scientist do? How would a criminal approach this? What if I reversed the problem? This forces your brain to think in dimensions instead of straight lines. You'll notice your creativity exploding, and suddenly, problems that once seemed difficult will feel simple. Day 7. The spy experiment. Sharpen your perception. Most people go through life blind, seeing only what's in front of them. The world's top strategists, investors, and leaders, they see 10 steps ahead. Today, you're going to train that skill. Go to a public place and quietly observe people. Try to guess their personality, their emotions, even their job. Then, find ways to confirm your assumptions. At first, you'll get things wrong. But then, something strange will happen. Your brain will start noticing patterns you never saw before. You'll pick up on subtle cues, read people faster, and understand situations in ways you never imagined. By the end of this challenge, your brain won't be the same. You'll start seeing connections everywhere. Your memory will feel supercharged. Your ability to solve problems, predict outcomes, and think ahead will be on another level. Most people will never do this. They'll stay trapped in linear thinking, forgetting most of what they learn, struggling to think beyond the surface. But you'll be different. You'll be ahead. And once you start thinking this way, you will never go back. At this point, you have a decision to make. You can walk away, go back to thinking the way you were trained, small, predictable, controlled. You can ignore everything you've just learned and stay in the system that was designed to keep you average. Or, you can take control. You now hold a mental framework that was once used by the greatest minds in history. A technique so powerful that it was stripped from schools to keep introverts from becoming unstoppable. You've seen the proof. You've felt the shift in your thinking. And now, it's up to you. If you start using mental webbing, you won't just think differently. You'll become someone people can't ignore. While others struggle to recall basic information, your brain will make instant connections. While they hesitate, you'll be 10 steps ahead. And while they follow, you'll be creating new paths. The system never wanted you to know this, because once you break free, you're no longer part of their game. You start writing the rules. So, What's your first move? Drop a comment below. Are you going back to the way you were trained? Or are you stepping into a new way of thinking? The ones who act on this will never see the world the same way again. Your mind is yours. Take it back.